Gentlemen, I yield, my time's expired, and then, so I think the right thing for me to do now is recognize Mrs. Greene of Georgia for her 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I agree with the committee and I agree with our witnesses that extremism and violence and political murder and all of this is absolutely wrong, no matter what side of the aisle it's on. But I think it's important to inform one of our witnesses today, Ms. Spitalnik, that you need to study your facts more, especially since your group is nonpartisan and your paycheck, I'm sure, is funded by people that donated to your group. That is, again, as you're the senior advisor on extremism at Human Rights First. Actually, there were 25 Americans killed at the hands of Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and we can call them domestic terrorists. I think that's an appropriate word. Antifa was certainly charged with domestic terrorism charges in Georgia, my home state, and rightfully so. And then one of the victims, can we go back to that? Thank you, is Captain David Dorn. Captain David Dorn, and unless Antifa is a white supremacist group, Mr. Rosas, you've done a lot of studying on Antifa. Are they a white supremacist group, Antifa, BLM?
Not in the traditional sense, and I say that because a lot of the people that I'm able to see, they are white, and when they do commit acts of vandalism or they've attacked minorities, so I mean, that could be, but I guess with what you're trying to ask, not in the traditional sense.
Not in a traditional sense, but most of them are white, and they are attacking minorities.
And in the neighborhoods and businesses, they've terrorized them, yes.
Right, minority neighborhoods and businesses, which should be talked about more. I mean, Black Lives Matter raised millions and millions of dollars, and then their protests that turned into violent riots causing property damage. But to your knowledge, has BLM ever paid any money to rebuild those minority communities that they destroyed?
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you. Mr. Erickson, do you know of any effort of BLM or Antifa to spend the money that they have to rebuild these communities?
I'm not familiar with any of those.
Thank you. I think as we're talking about left-wing extremism that continues today, it happened today in this building while we're having this hearing, which is unreal. I think it's important to remember the headlines that seem to be forgotten, because the major focus of Democrats here in this city, the major focus from many people on the left is one day in history, which is January 6th. But I think it's really important to remember all of the violence and arrest and unbelievable threat to human lives. Ms. Spitalnik, remember, you care about human lives. These headlines right here talk about human lives. Human lives are important to you. Is that correct, Ms. Spitalnik?
That is correct, which is, again, why we need to be clear-eyed about the threat, while not ignoring the fact that left-wing violence exists, as you point out, but recognizing that when it comes to politically motivated violence, all of the statistics, including from Trump's own Department of Homeland Security, says white supremacist and other far-right extremism is the most persistent and lethal threat.
Right, so what we established today is white supremacist and abortion is the most lethal threat to Black babies, with over 20 million being murdered in the womb, 900 a day. I reclaim my time, Ms. Spitalnik. I reclaim my time, thank you. But what you can see here is 47 arrested, 59 officers injured, 5 officers hurt, violent BLM protests in New York, leaving 2 New York police cops injured, 11 arrested, Portland officers injured, New York Police Department chief injured while making arrests, more than 700 officers injured. And let's go to one more identity that seems to be targeted more than any other identity in past times, which is now a woman, like Riley Gaines, the female athlete. Any woman fighting for her right to have privacy, to change her clothes without a man in there, to have the privacy to compete. Thank God Riley Gaines was not murdered when she went to that college campus that day. So Ms. Spitalnik, I would ask, with your nonpartisan nonprofit that you run and you care about human rights, I would hope that you care about Riley Gaines and other women, because they're the new target of political violence. Thank you. I yield my time.
Gentlelady yields back. I recognize Mr. Strong for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I have no further